Hello, everybody, and welcome to the official first podcast for Energy Over Matter. I'm really excited to be here today and in starting this new project and this new avenue of inspiration and investigation on my personal journey and on the one I'm hoping that I'm going to be sharing with all of you as well. So the first thing I wanted to say was Yoga Atta Anasasanam. And this was the first thing that came to me when I thought about writing my very first blog post, making my first video, and now in doing my first podcast as well. So this saying really is marking the start of a new journey. So it is saying that now we begin the path in the path of yoga or self-discipline on this path. And really, it doesn't just have to be about yoga. You could really make it about anything. It's just marking an intention that this is the moment I'm going to do it. And you're manifesting in the universe your intention of something new that you're starting. And I want to start on this journey with you guys. And I hope that we can evolve this project together over time. I have a lot of ideas of places I want to take it and where I want it to go, but I want it to just unfold organically as well. So I didn't script this today. I didn't really even think that much about what I was going to talk about besides my opening word I wanted to say. And beyond that, we're just going to let things just unfold as they do. So I guess first I'll just say something about energy over matter. So this is a business that I've just recently started. It's going to have three main areas that I'm working with people on. So first being yoga. And for this, I'm going to be doing group yoga with people, also privately in my home or in other people's home. And the intention here really is that I'm not going to be doing yoga for people that are just looking for, general yoga as like an exercise program to get a yoga body in a yoga studio. There's many more probably advanced, skilled, flexible young bodies for that. For myself, I have dealt with my own issues with disability and with illness, which has led to some restrictions for me. And in knowing that, I still think there's so much value in what I have to offer and what I think that other people can gain and what I want to help people with. So with that in mind, I really decided that my focus would be mostly on people who also suffer with some type of disability or something that is impairing their level of function at the moment. So if this is somebody like in my own personal situation, I've struggled with MS for the last I guess would be now going on 14 years soon. My condition has gone up and down over the years. I did just in the last few years suffer the biggest relapse I've ever had, and it really did take me out. But using yoga and the other things I'm going to mention in a minute, I was able to slowly rebuild myself again. And I did that bit by bit, and yoga really played a part in that. And actually, as a matter of fact, I already had done yoga previous to this. And I think that when I actually first got diagnosed with MS, that what really changed for me then was actually the practice of meditation. And although now I understand that meditation and yoga really are the same thing, when I first was doing yoga, I really just thought yoga was holding the poses and maybe the shavasana at the end for a little relaxation, but I didn't really understand yoga as a spiritual practice yet. It wasn't really until this relapse where I understood, I became certified to be a yoga teacher, and I really had the time because my body was so impaired. I couldn't do a lot of things outside of the house or even of the couch. So I took a lot of time to learn. And I really started to understand so my instinct to meditate when I first got diagnosed with MS was really powerful, and it was really divine because that's exactly what I needed, because I couldn't even fall back on the yoga poses during this relapse because all I had was my mind. So my body was so impaired that I needed help standing, bathing, feeding myself. So the idea that I was going to balance possibly or even get myself seated on the floor and standing back up was near impossible. There was a few things that over time I was able to get myself into some more yin poses, which I held for periods of time. But I mean, even then to say put myself into like a pigeon pose, it would require my hands to move my leg to get there. And then part of the issue with that for me was that I had so much nerve pain, numbness, and I had lost it's called propriotal perception. So I couldn't tell where my own body was in space, let alone feel it. So it became dangerous then to think, well, am I going to overstretch? Am I going to overdo something that now you almost want to pull back on that? So I went right back to the basics, which was just meditation, because my mind was what I knew in that moment was going to save me. So my mind was still had the ability to focus its thoughts, to be aware of its thoughts, and to manifest and to have hope and to have some belief that things are going to get better from here, and that I was able to do it. And really my mind also to reject what the doctors were telling me, which I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I feel like there's so many things I want to share and I want to say. It's hard to, I get a little bit scattered with all of it and where to start on this journey because there's so many moving pieces to it. But to just even go back to the meditation in this one moment, the meditation was something that for any of you that have ever practiced meditation, really can bring you bliss in almost instantaneously. Like, I know sometimes it's hard to get into a proper meditation or what we would call like an effective one. But once we're actually there and we have that moment where we kind of disconnect from our mind, and we come back, even I would say, into our body and into our consciousness that's kind of witnessing, you have that moment of pure kind of bliss that happens and happiness. And you can feel when you're connected to the quantum, when you're connected to source, you can feel how all of a sudden all the other things disappear and they become less of a drama playing out in your life. They become, it's less of a spectacle. So you're not seeing everything as so like life or death as you was. And I'm not even want to minimize that, because in my situation, I actually did worry I was going to die. There was plenty of nights where I thought if I lost one more bodily function that I might not wake up the next day. And certainly by the look on people's faces as they were leaving me and my family members after they had hugged me goodnight, I could tell they were thinking the same thing too. So I don't want to minimize and say, and I just, but even in that case where it was actually life or death, once you kind of get into the moment of meditation, you can kind of pull back from it and kind of see the bigger picture. And when you have faith and you have hope, I don't know how to say that without, because I don't want to, touch on anyone's feelings or toes there with that. But even the idea that this life is not, where it's temporary, and that we're all just only here in this body and in this moment for a little bit to learn, to grow, that this too shall pass. Our entire body, I mean, from the time we're born to the time we die, it's a process. And it comes in and out of function, ability, and health. I mean, where we start off as babies, we're pretty unable to do anything, and then we go through those teenage years of feeling so bold and brave that we can conquer anything. We do dangerous stunts and crazy ideas. Then we hit that age where we're like, all of a sudden we have to go to work and pay our mortgage. We're like, maybe I shouldn't, jump that thing on my snowboard. And then we get even my age now, and I'm like, I don't even want to walk the dog in ice. I put grippers on because I'm scared I might fall and hurt my hip, right? So, and now you start to realize that even when your body is sick or these things happen, even some of the fear of that and the gripping kind of lets go when you get like a different perspective that you can get through meditation, when you start to just kind of witness yourself as that constant. So anyway, that moved me right from yoga into my next thing I do, which obviously at Energy Over Matter is meditation. I personally think that is the quickest, fastest, and easiest way to transform your life. So for any of the people that I would ever help, I think especially those that are having like a lot of mental anxiety, depression, or any of these kinds of problems, or the people who I'm going to be targeting most so with physical disabilities or illnesses. Sometimes your body can't quite move yet. And we're going to get your body there. But if you can get your mind first centered and focused, your body will follow wherever your mind goes, right? I think the saying, like, wherever energy goes, wherever thoughts go, energy flows. Same thing. If we start focusing our mind, and our body will tend to follow, and our body will follow to sickness and to health. Right. And that's another scary thing about our mind, is that once we realize that we have the ability to help ourselves with new thought patterns, and those thoughts and beliefs can change the actions and the behaviors that we do, which ultimately leads to different body and to different life, that process is a two-way street. So then we have to start taking some responsibility and thinking, well, what was my mind like that led me to the place I'm at now? And that it's kind of something that pissed me off a little bit, but it also gave me hope to know that obviously I had done something in my life that led to my body having an autoimmune disease that was my body turning on itself. And I mean, I can name all of these things, and I can't just jump around too much here in this one. We'll get to that in other podcasts, because I personally am a firm believer of sharing personal experience and being vulnerable. And the whole point of helping other people is to just come clean about my own life and my own story. And I have no problem divulging and sharing that. And I will do that on more episodes. But it's enough to say right now that I definitely realized and learned through meditation and through working with my own mind and observing it, that I definitely contributed in a lot of ways. And even knowing that when I started meditating, I guess 15 years ago, this relapse I had 2 years ago, it was caused by the same thing, right? This was, again, a mental state of being, which caused worry that led to physical problems in my body. And, a lot of the things I worried about, some came true, a lot of them didn't. But even the things that came true, certainly I didn't need to give so much focus and worry to that. And in knowing that, I really, even though I want to help teach other people, we're constantly a work in progress ourselves. And so even for those of us that are veteran and seasoned meditators or are into yoga or other health things, we all fall sometimes, and we all need to get picked back up. And that's why it's wonderful to create a community and to surround yourself with like-minded people who can help you, and with a non-judgmental way too, because anybody who's ever had the kinds of experiences that I'm assuming that some of you that are seeking this out, you've probably had these kinds of experiences. You really do develop a lot of compassion for other people, because once you've really gone through something yourself, you're much less judgmental on other people and harsh on them. And what I would welcome you to do is also be more compassionate with yourself. And it's something that we do have a hard time doing, but I mean, treat yourself with the same kind of care and consideration you would to a child or to a pet even, or to another loved one, because we also deserve that kind of care and consideration. And in kind of trying to keep with some kind of flow here, I'll introduce you then to the next thing that I offer here, which is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. And I'm not going to get into all the techie stuff with that today. That'll be saved for another video as well. I just want to make sure I don't scare anybody off here that of thinking that is anything to do with like EMFs. So I know about EMFs. I'm sensitive as well myself. And any of you that are having health issues, I'm sure that for some of you, you've already gone down that rabbit hole as well. So what PEMF is actually is beneficial and healthy hertz and frequencies. They're healing, and they're not the same as like a 5G or 3G, 4G, any of these other cell towers that might be damaging to our health. But anyway, the PEMF is something that I came across during this last relapse, and I would say again was very synchronicitous and was very beautiful. And I'll tell that story as well about how I got there. And actually, maybe I'm going to back that up, and let's go right to the beginning of the idea of energy over matter. So when I was 18 years old, I got a tattoo of infinity on my back. And when I got that tattoo, I didn't really know why I gravitated towards that word. I didn't really have a lot thought out about it. But after I got it, and I really loved back in the day to get into really like deep talks and debate religion and philosophy and a lot of ideas. And I actually felt really tuned in and connected back then to myself. I hadn't really got lost yet into the social constructs and into ideology and into things that kind of narrowed my focus and my ability to choose freely for myself. But at that time, I really felt inspired by this idea as I developed after I got that tattoo, this idea of infinity, that energy, we learned in science, right? It's not created or destroyed, transferred from one state to another. The idea that our energy was always going to be on this continuous movement and loop. And that what would happen is that if we came across one loop and we got, we didn't pay attention, we didn't learn any lessons to where we had been, we weren't really looking where we were going, we were just on autopilot moving around, then when we got to that crossroad, that we might loop back the wrong way, we might loop opposite of the flow, that we could just kind of start moving scattered all over the place, and that would disrupt our life path, and we would lose connection with our divinity and our consciousness. And so that part of our goal in life was always to spend some time looking where we had been and some time planning for the future. Because even though we want to live in the now, we do need to know that we're still, moving on some kind of path with some thought and purpose. But that as we came around, then we're getting all scattered and we're getting offbeat. And the goal was then to really make sure that by the time you came back to making a decision, when you're in the now there, you're at that crossing point, that you're making a decision that really speaks to you and is going to put you on the right path. And that when that happens, that all of a sudden you can manifest and you can tap into your potential. And all of a sudden, things stop struggling, they stop being hard, and they just work. And then life will provide you with all of these signs of things that were just working out. And that's on that same loop that sometimes a lot of people would get to that crossroad and then they would make no decision. And no decision is, in essence, making a decision, because the energy backlash is behind you and it wants to move and it wants to go, and you're not letting it go anywhere. And so it gets stagnant and it gets stuck. And then a lot of people, that's when we're living in fear and we don't make the right choice. And that affects us as well, right? And then sometimes because we've been backed in that corner in that path for so long, then we make really bad decisions after that, because we're making them not out of a place of passion, out of joy, out of love. We're making them now with all of this negative energy behind them. So that was my first time that I realized that the universe had sort of spoken to me with this idea of infinity. And I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to pursue a profession somehow in studying philosophy and in writing and ideas, because that's really what inspired me. But I, through the conditioning of my life, decided that that was not practical, that I needed to have a job with benefits, that I needed to get a job where I could be able to qualify for loans and move forward with a life the way that society had told me was productive. And because I am an A-type personality and I love making plans and to-do lists, I was really effective at that. And I put myself through school, and I'd already opened a business when I was younger, and I had done all of these things. And actually now I've done quite a few different educational degrees, none of which have anything to do with yoga, meditation, or PEMF, but I'm starting a new field now, right? A new field of study, and I'm putting the same kind of passion, actually more passion, into this one. But I think that I made that choice because I grew up with somebody who also had autoimmune disease, and I seen the effect of not having like the stability and the ability to fall back on benefits and a safety net, and how they had to work through that their whole life. So I thought, I don't want that. I'm going to make sure that I do the right thing. And I would almost argue now, looking back, that even though it ended up being true in a sense that I did end up needing a job that gave me disability benefits, and a job that allowed me to do all of this like expensive medical treatments that I used to actually ascribe to. Maybe looking at it differently now, the reason that I was sick in the first place had something more to do with the fact that I was choosing the wrong things for myself, that all the decisions I was making weren't based on a true path for myself. I wasn't listening to my inner voice. I was listening to society telling me the things that were going to be best for me. And because I was off my path, my whole body was off. I was dysregulated in everything, like, because as above, so below, right? The macrocosm of my decisions I was making was affecting me at a mental level, at an energetic level, at a cellular level, all the way down. So that was, I would say, the first time that I had manifested something, but then I ignored it, not knowing that that was what was happening. And then I suffered through a lot of ill fates, and I also affected my body. And we'll talk about that in later episodes for anybody that's interested in how trauma can really impact autoimmune and illness in general. But next time we're talking about the field only, that I tapped into that, I was in a really good place again. So I was actually quite happy. I was in a really good relationship. My kids were doing really well. My health had been doing well. The MS really hadn't bothered me in a lot of years. I was, they had told me, oh yeah, 10 years, you're going to be in a wheelchair. On my 10-year anniversary, I did a triathlon. So, I was doing fine. And I decided after I renovated and did major renovations in a house that, no, let's move on to a new adventure. I want to move. But I had made vision boards with my kids before we even decided to move. And on my vision board, I had put down that I wanted to live somewhere like I had grown up, where I was beside a public school, that I had all my friends on the street, that I wanted to start hosting and having more parties. I wanted a beautiful backyard in nature. And I wrote down on the top of it, a quote about discipline. So saying the difference between discipline is what I want now and what I want most. And I don't know why I wrote that quote. I didn't really think much about it. And I kind of put that vision board away when I was packing stuff up, because we did decide to move, and I went from living downtown in Toronto to out a Newmarket in a much more green, open area for my kids. And we had gone to see that house and obviously buy it, and I hadn't thought about it again, but I brought my kids there one day to look at it, to get them excited about their new house. And as I pulled up, I noticed that the park was called Beswick, and the park I had grown up with as a kid was Berwick. And I was like, oh, what a weird coincidence. Like, I live beside my public school. We're now beside the public school. That backyard now I have is all full of lush English gardens and a swimming pool. So that was matching again what I had put on my board. And then I noticed even deeper that the quote on this sign for Beswick Park was about discipline. And I was like, I don't know if the universe can speak to you any clearer, that all the things I put on my vision board were now right here in front of me. I had manifested them. And so I knew right then this is the right path, and it had worked out, because from there, other things I wanted all fell into place. I got the opportunity to homeschool my children, and I've got this beautiful community of people around me where we built all of these projects together and these new endeavors, and they were successful, and everybody seemed very happy in this community. My children loved it. But then, like I said, my own mental state kind of suffered after that, and I went into a bit of a funk, and this relapse happened, and it really manifested in my body now, just as much as I had done something positive, and now I'm in a negative place again. So now I am gone to a colonics, not even in my town. I'm driving all the way to Markham to go do it. And when I'm there, I look at this, and this is because of my health issues. I'm struggling with my bowel and bladder with the MS now as well. So I go to do a colonics there, and this lady has this sign up, and it says PEMF in her reception. And I was like asking her as I'm checking, I'm like, what is that? I never heard of that before. And I'm really into alternative treatments. She's like, oh, come in the back. And my boss is on the machine right now, but I'm sure she won't mind if I just show you the stuff. We go into the back, and I meet the lady that owns the place, and she jumps off the machine and is like, absolutely, come and lay down, let me talk to you about it. It turns out that the lady that owns the place has the same illness that my father had, that had led me to believe I needed benefits in the first place, and that had been part of my childhood. She was probably 10 years younger than him, but man, she was like stood straight up. She was vibrant, and you couldn't tell from the outside that there was anything wrong with her. And as a matter of fact, she had never even taken treatments, any like allopathic Western treatments for it, because she decided to do these other things, which included PEMF. So instantly I'm just love this idea, and I'm laying on the machine, and the first thing I notice is my funk is gone, like the depression that's been kind of following me. And like rightly so, I'm not normally a depressed person. I'm pretty optimistic my whole life, but I can't walk. I can't use the washroom. I can't use my hands. I can't see. So, I mean, I have the right to be pretty depressed at the moment. But even what led me to that sickness of my MS, I had already been upset for the preceding 2 years. And so, it had been a while since I had felt, kind of peppy about life again. And laying on that machine, I could feel for the first time that I was like noticing that I was kind of happy, and that it was like I was looking out the window and thinking, wow, the clouds look beautiful today. And that amazed me. So instantly I left with booked appointments, and I'm like, I want to come. I want to do this more. I want this feeling again, thinking that it only just might be a little bit of a mood lifter. So the next time I went back, this time I laid on the machine for longer, and she actually tailored the session to actually working on my brain. And I didn't even really know how to like talk about it in the appointment as I was paying on my way out the door. And I never even really said much to my partner where we were driving. And it was only when he kind of was looking over at me and kind of saying like, whoa, what's up? I was amazed. Like the lights had just like been flipped back on. That's the only way I can describe it. Like on the drive there, I wasn't able to see the difference of the traffic lights. Like, is it green? Is it red? I can't distinguish the stop sign from the trees behind it. Everything is muddled. It's like I can't see people's eyes to make eye contact. And now all of a sudden I can read the street signs. I can see the lights. I can see the difference between the white of the cloud and the blue of the sky. It was amazing. The problem is that it didn't really last that long. So within an hour, it was kind of back to where it was. So I was doing treatments once a week, every other week, and it was hard to get there because I can't drive myself, and I'm having to ask people to take days off of work to drive me, and it's not that convenient. On top of all the other appointments I'm having. And the time between treatments was making the effects kind of wear off, and finding that I wanted more treatments, and I needed to be doing it every day. And so I dove in and made this crazy decision to just buy a machine. And you know what? I even need to back up here because I even jumped ahead here. So before I found the PEMF, I made another vision board. So I did this with my kids at homeschool. I went there, and I was in a cane then and not really able to walk, and I still wanted to participate at school. So the lady had the meeting in her house instead of having to walk back on the farm property. And I led vision boards with all the kids. And I didn't do mine with the kids there that day because I was really struggling to even just like communicate and talk with them. I did mine when I got home. And on my vision board this time, I put down that I wanted to see my kids in nature and happy, and that I wanted to continue yoga. So I put a picture of someone doing yoga on it. And then again, handwriting, weird, just like the discipline quote, I handwrite at the top of it sine waves of like energy, and I put a line over. And then I draw these little dots, which in my mind were representing energy or sorry, particle matter. And then I wrote energy over matter. And I had no idea at the time that I wrote that, what that meant. It was just kind of something that I just thought, and then I just put it down. And again, I had taken that vision board and put it away because seasons had changed, and the kids project, and I put it away with my kids' stuff for school, all that I keep for them. And it wasn't until after I had already bought my PEMF machine, because now I had decided I do want one. It works so well. I hadn't thought about it yet as a business. It was just now I just want one just to use it on myself. I was cleaning one day and I pulled the box out, and here is this old vision board now from maybe a year, maybe like 9 months previous. And there's this energy over matter. And I was like, wow, that again is like a synchronicity. Like I'm on the right path. This is the right thing. And I knew there was one moment of darkness where I was quite sick, where I hadn't really prayed a lot in my life before, but I was praying and asking that if God could find a solution for me and give me the answers to heal myself, that I promised that I would heal at least one other person. And I knew that once I had that PEMF machine, I was like, this works so well for me. Like the results, once I could be using the treatments every day and for, more than once a day, it was amazing how quickly I was seeing results from it. And I knew I was going to be able to help somebody else, and that I was going to be able to fill that promise. And I've since actually helped a lot of just people around me. So it's been my family member. I started with them first. So I've worked with now broken bones and pretty bad falls, which led to some tears and a lot of bruising. I've done it for ear infections. I've treated people with like old hip injuries. I've done a lot of back pain now. I just helped somebody with migraines as well. So I know that I've now fulfilled my promise, but I really would like to scope this up now. And I know that for the PEMF, I'm not going to be able to reach people globally with it because it is a machine that you need to come to me to be treated with. But I don't really care if you get treated with me. What I really want is for people out there to know that this is an option and that this really works. And I think PEMF is really growing immensely right now. So you'll be able to find somebody in your area that probably offers this, and seek it out, because most people are not going to be able to purchase a machine themselves because it's really quite an investment. They're quite expensive, or at least if you're going to buy one that's a high intensity, that's going to work for people. So, if you're close to me and you're in the area, GTA, Toronto area, I welcome you to come and see me. I'd love to help you. But if not, then really just honestly have faith that there's something that could help you, and at least try it out, because I know not everything works for every person. We're all, have a different root cause of what our problems are. We have a different thing that might be the thing that moves the needle. But at least if you've tried a lot of things and nothing's working for you, put this in your to-do list of options of things that could help you. So, I know now that I've had this synchronicity again, and life showing me when I'm on the right path. I have really, really focused a lot now on stilling myself even more because I want to be able to listen, because I do think that the universe wants to help us. And I do think that we're all tapped in and connected to the same source. And all the wisdom in our body is there waiting for us. All the divine wisdom in our consciousness is all there at our fingertips. But we've just got so lost on the way because we get so stuck in our thinking minds and our intellect. And that, gives us all these worries, some real, some not. It ruminates on the past. It's always thinking happiness and everything is around the next corner, that we get kind of lost and our body disconnects from our consciousness, and they need to work in harmony. And that's what most disease is a dysregulation, a dis-ease, right, in our body. And that's why I picked these 3 modalities, because I believe that you can really use our mind as a tool to quiet everything down so that our body has a chance to have innate wisdom to heal itself. And then we quiet our mind so that our consciousness has a chance to speak to us again. And our mind can only be used as the bridge between the two. But sometimes, even when we're doing, and whether it's yoga or if you found something else like maybe Pilates, or maybe you're doing physio already with somebody else, something that is moving your body again. I mean, I think yoga in particular is beneficial because it does have such a mindfulness to it compared to some other things. And it really is paired with the breath. But mind you, I mean, if you're going to move your body and you're trying to get fit again and get healthy again, really whatever you're doing, I encourage that as well, because moving is, I mean, when we don't move, we die. So if you can move your body in whatever way you can, great. If you can't right now, meditate, get your mind strong. So hopefully it communicates back to your body. And for those of us that are not in a position that we can really move our body yet because we have quite severe injury, or maybe some of it is permanent too, like I believe a lot of things can be overcome that the doctors tell us, but for some people, maybe they do have an injury now where they've lost use permanently of like they're blind in one eye, maybe, or they're it could be in a wheelchair. And if you're paraplegic or something has happened, you've lost a limb. I mean, I don't think you can mind over matter your way out of that, but I do think you can change your hope though, right? And you can still change the quality of your life, and you can still change your perspective, and you can be happier and you can be better than you were before. PEMF, I think, is something that you probably shouldn't aim to be using for the rest of your life. I do know the doctor who prescribed to me did say that I probably, because I have MS and it's chronic, would use it forever. But I actually believe that something like MS, if I wasn't born with it, then I, don't need to die with it. It is something, if I acquired it, I can unacquire it. And I think that that's true for a lot of things. Like you can put cancer there, diabetes, a lot of heart issues. There's a lot of things that we can modify and amend until we're healthy enough again. And PEMF is one of the tools I think that's amazing, because for some of us that might have any, like MS really does affect my mitochondria as well, or anybody that's got mold issues, heavy metal issues, anybody that's having a hard time with ATP production, and that you just can't maintain energy right now. So it becomes so hard. Like for me, my energy level wanes throughout the day with the MS sometimes, that it becomes hard to like will my leg to move again. It's not like back in the days when I was doing long distance running, and that the more I ran, the more I exercised, the more energy I got. MS has actually, in this case, done something that's really put something such off regulation in my system that it's hard to get it back syncing up again. And if the PEMF is a tool that you can use to bridge that gap, right? If it can give you the energy that you need so that you can move your body again, so that you can get up again in the morning, so that you can get through that next task, each time that you can get back up and do that next little bit of motion means that your body will learn how to do the motion again on its own. So sometimes we just need that little bit of help along the way, or even just thinking about something not as chronic as my MS, but my daughter, who I'm treating for her broken leg right now, it's working wonders to get rid of the pain immediately. Like, I mean, hands down, there's no denying that. Her pain would instantly go away using the machine. And as a fact, if she fell asleep and the machine turned off, she would wake up out of sleep asking for me to put it back on again. But it's also going to help heal the bone. And so this is something she's not going to need all the time, right? We're going to use this. In the beginning, I was using it, in a couple hours a day. Now it's like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And eventually her leg's going to heal and she won't need this again. So a PEMF, again, for some people, you might want to be purchasing a home machine if you think that you can afford it and you think that you're going to need a lot. Other people, you just need a little bit of help. So you just find somebody in your area and you can just seek out like a treatment package or just doing it temporarily. But those are the three things anyway, to get back to that, the starting of my business. So that's really what the aim of Energy Over Matter is. This podcast, like under Energy Over Matter, I do treatment of those three areas. I'm also doing some educational videos, which you can find on Rumble and also on YouTube. And I'm going to be also selling some actual videos that are like meditation series for purchase separately. But this podcast is going to be a little bit different. So instead of just like factual information or treatment in these areas, I want this to be more of a personal story that I'm giving to people, because I know that I found those really helpful. Like when I first got diagnosed with MS, I could not stop going online and searching, how were people doing after 2 years? How were people doing if they took this medication? How were they doing after 10 years? And I really wanted to know what I might have in store for me in my future. And I mean, for somebody who likes to plan, it was really scary to all of a sudden being like, well, you can't make a plan because you have this disease that doesn't follow a timeline. It's so variable from person to person. Like there's no real, I know all diseases run like that, but it's not like cancer, even where you're going to get stage 1, 2, 3, 4, where they give you a prognosis, which honestly I don't think is set in stone either. And I don't think people should just automatically write themselves off with those diagnoses either. But with MS, they don't really give you anything. They're just like, all I was told in the beginning was, well, keep your benefits and plan on being in a wheelchair. I didn't get much more than that from them. And I just think with the MS now, it might be hopeful to a lot of people to gain some measure of control in their life. So this, even though Energy Over Matter only offers PEMF, yoga, and meditation, this podcast, I actually am going to go through my story and what happened to me from starting till now. Different treatments that I tried, both allopathic and alternative, what worked, what didn't. And that's not to say that I think that other people will have a similar response or story to that. It's just to give people a little bit of information, some ideas maybe of different things that they could try that maybe they hadn't thought of before. And hope as well, because I know that this last relapse I had was quite severe, and I was a little scared myself, but even from that relapse to now, I can see well enough now that I can read again. I'm not driving still yet, but I walked my dog this morning, and she's a puppy, so she's a Rottweiler. So the fact that I can handle her, my hands are still numb to the point where I can't hold a pen, I can't like zip something up or do like fine motor skills. But before I couldn't even pick up a cup, right? So to know where I started and where I am now, I still see it as a big win. So I think that for anybody out there that's suffering, and they had told me that anything that lasts longer than 6 months isn't a relapse anymore, it's disease progression. So by all measures, all my function should have already been lost, and that should be just now I'm higher on the disability index. And I've proved that wrong. So bit by bit by bit, I'm getting all of my abilities back. And I think that I'll recover 100% of function. I believe that full-heartedly. And I also think that I'm going to come out better on the other end, because maybe I didn't respect the MS as much before because I didn't realize how much my mind could have an impact on it. But knowing now where it can go and what's capable, I'm never going to let my mind get that way again. I'm going to, not to say you don't have bad days or things will happen, but, and I'm sure other trauma and other experiences are going to come up that will be negative and that'll be hard to cope with. But I think now, knowing the end result of letting myself go there, I'm going to be keeping a much more gentle hold of my mind to not let myself go down some certain thought processes. So I want you guys to know that that's possible for you too, wherever you're starting now, wherever you want to go. Maybe you already are healthy and maybe you're doing yoga and meditation and PEMF just because it's also a great thing to recover from workouts, and a lot of athletes use it. And a lot of people use meditation just because they're a little stressed, and that works really great too. And if you're there, I want to help you too. And I want to be part of your story as well. But for those of you that are coming with stories similar to mine, or any where along that scale. I really hope that this speaks to you, and I hope that you find something useful and valuable out of this. And I hope that you're going to stick around. I'm sorry if this first one was a little scattered and all over the place, but to be honest, I didn't prepare for it. I didn't make any notes. I didn't even try to put the dog away. I was thinking maybe the puppy was going to start jumping up in the screen right here. Our kids were going to be, fighting in the background, because my life is like yours. It's real. Things are happening. But I just decided I'm just going to leap in and do it, because, like all things in life, we never really feel all the way ready. We never feel all the way sure about things. So sometimes we just need to just have a little bit of faith in ourselves that we're just going to work through any of the kinks and the problems along the way. And I hope that you feel that way too, and that you come back for my next podcast and ones in the future. And if today wasn't something that was as valuable to you, everyone is going to be covering different topics. So just so you know, my thought process, I know I said it's going to evolve however it does, but my thought process will be that I'll go through, first of all, MS as my personal story. Like I said, things I tried, things I did over the year, how my relapses went, how recovery went. And then I'm going to get into some other kinds of conditions that can be helped by all of these modalities. And then over time, I'm hoping that maybe we can expand this into interviewing other people that both on personal level to hear their stories, because I love personal stories. I know that science says anecdotal evidence doesn't really count, but I don't believe that. I believe studies can be skewed, and companies that are selling something can always manipulate data. But when you really trust somebody and you look into their eyes and you hear their stories, I mean, that can really change our belief system way quicker than reading a study. And so I hope that you would find me trustworthy in this, because I am speaking to you from the heart. So maybe we can get some people on and maybe get to hear other people's hero journeys and what they've went through. And then maybe, to expand on that too, maybe we get some people on here that are professionals in their fields of different modalities, and we can maybe get to talk to them to see what kind of things maybe can help people that have different things going on. So in case that was a lot of rambling and all over the place, I apologize about that. So I'll sign off for today, and I'll just say thank you so much for being part of this. And if you listened all the way through, really have a blessed day and a blessed life. And until the next time, namaste, everybody. Thank you so much.